like, down and out about their haircuts.
I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs to someplace, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
Now the world don't move.
What time does the show come on? 9 where? Well, what's the name of the show? And what's the name of him? Okay. Well, turn it on then. Jesus. Okay. All right, is it recording? Okay. Hey there, this is Gary Coleman. I don't have any idea what this is about, but you're watching... What? No, not watching. Let me do that again. Take 2. Hey, this is Gary Coleman. I have no idea what this is about, and I think people just need to learn to respect themselves and other people respect who's bald. You're listening to The Bald Truth. That's 2. All right, fine, but this is it. Otherwise, he's going to have to go in his wallet. All right, here you go. Take 3. Ready? This is Gary Coleman, and you're listening to Spencer Kobren on The Bald Truth.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. Thanks for holding on. I know we started the program 9 minutes late, but what else is new? Always great to be here. Guys who are watching live on Joe Tillman's YouTube stream, which is Joe Tillman, the Hair Transplant Mentor, or Joe Tillman, Hair Transplant Mentor, or whatever it is that I can't get right every week.
Hair Transplant Mentor, that's all.
Welcome, everyone who's watching on thebaldtruth.com. Welcome, everyone watching on GFQ. Welcome, everyone who's listening to the broadcast through iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, Stitcher Radio. I think we are still buried somewhere on, what is that? It's not YouTube, it's the other one, not iHeart. We're not that buried on iHeart. Digital Motion. Remember that?
Or Daily Motion?
Is it Daily Motion?
Daily Motion.
All right, well,
yeah.
they just gave me a big fuck you for calling them Digital Motion. But yeah, everyone who's tuning in on that, welcome. And again, I'm like an old man on the Digital Motion.
What are you going to do? I'm an old man over here. What are you going to do?
Unreal. Guys, welcome to the broadcast. We are dealing with about 84-degree studio temp. The air conditioning in the studio is out, and that is not good. So just doing the best that we can. But we're here live to take your calls. Again, if for some reason the phones do not ring, we do not continue. That's the way this works. That's why we do the live broadcast. It's 888-659-3727. There's a couple of options. I can run directly into replay, which I was told to do for iHeartRadio if I ever decide to leave and go off the air early. And I was just informed of that because apparently they scramble around trying to get a best of if I leave early. And I wasn't told that, Joe, until just a couple of days ago.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I guess, which is cool. What are you going to do? But yeah, guys, give us a call, 888-659-3727. If you are new to the broadcast, don't know who I am, don't know who Joe is, well, first, I am a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I've been doing this for just about a little over 20 years. I am the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. These are actually published books, really, real published volumes by top 4 publishers, not diminishing those who are self-publishing because this is a new world. But back in the day, it wasn't that easy to get published. And we happened to be able to hit on a subject that pocketbooks appreciated, and it became the most read volume in the world on the prevention and treatment of hair loss, published in 5 languages. I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. I am the founder of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, and I am a guy who has a frog in his throat, who has been dealing with hair loss for well over 30 years. Now, if you're watching the broadcast, you're like, hey, wait a second. This is an older guy who seems to have some hair on his head. I do. I'm very lucky. It's a partial sham. But the truth is I've been lucky enough to save a good amount of hair with the use of an FDA-approved drug, and that drug is finasteride. Started using ProScar in its 5 milligram dosage, probably, it was like 26 or 27, something like that, before it was approved for hair loss. And that is why I'm sitting here today, because it literally changed my life. So for those of you who are anti-Propecia fanatics, I certainly understand the reasons why some of you guys are in that position. I understand that there are guys out there who have taken this drug and who are now currently suffering because of it. I also know there are millions of men who were lucky enough to start using the drug and have the opportunity to save their hair. So there is an issue that, it's very difficult for me when I hear these young guys who are willing to put just about any gray market product on or in their bodies, but they're scared shitless of finasteride, which at the very least went through the FDA process. Now, even if the degree of adverse side effects or the percentage of those suffering with adverse side effects is greater than those who suffered with adverse side effects during clinical trials, even if it's double or triple, it would still be less than 10%.
I was going to say a single percentile range,
right? Single digits. Not saying that's great. Not saying that those who are suffering with it, if you're that one guy, or the 1 out of 10 or whatever who's suffering with adverse side effects, that sucks. But I don't necessarily think that. Well, the way that I feel about it is, look, let people make their own choices. There's no one out here trying to sell poison to anybody. We don't sell finasteride. I have no connection to Merck. Joe and I both use the drug. It's worked for us. There is most of my contemporaries, my peers, my friends have been on the drug for many years. Kids that I grew up with started taking the drug well over a decade ago, 20 years ago. Had children, is functioning normally in his 50s. I think just about everybody I know currently my age is taking that drug, at least in my personal life. So that's just the way that it is. Joe is a guy that does not recommend anyone having a hair transplant without at least considering using finasteride. I feel the same way. We are both not physicians. But I think this is a good topic to kind of start the show off on, because you just did a video on topical finasteride. And the reason why...
questions I'm getting.
Well, the reason why everyone wants to jump on topical finasteride, the reason why it's being offered and prescribed through doctors, being made through compounding pharmacies, is because people are scared shitless to use oral finasteride.
Yeah.
And you busted 3 interesting myths. And one myth, and I'm going to let you speak in a second, is that there are no systemic side effects, and that is just not true.
Yeah, it's completely false. And what I find to be fascinating is that a complete sub-industry has arisen and is exploding because of a few guys 12 years ago in 2006 that went online and said it destroyed, finasteride or Propecia at the time destroyed my life. And ever since then, there have been whispers and mumblings and some people, kind of crouching in circles saying, how can we make this better? How can we like reduce these side effects or even eliminate them? And the obvious answer was, well, let's come up with a topical.
Right.
And what I didn't get into, because I don't have all the facts on this, but what I didn't get into was why topical finasteride wasn't offered to begin with.
By the way, just to let you know, and no one's probably noticing this as much as I am, but our sync is literally like 2 seconds off.
Really?
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's on my machine or your machine, but I mean, you look clear, and the sync should be pretty close.
Yeah. Well, once we get that second machine thing worked out,
just put that thing in front of your mouth, no one will know.
There you go. How's this?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. But yeah, so the fact is that Merck did have the patent on topical finasteride. They still may, which is why I believe that you can't just go into any pharmacy and pick up topical finasteride, already pre-made, boxed, shipped from the manufacturer. It has to be made in compounding pharmacies. But point being is that a complete industry or sub-industry is being created because of this fear. And so those myths that I want to dispel are pretty much the top 3 questions or issues that are being brought to me through email and what I'm reading online. And that is that there are no side effects with topical finasteride, that all topical finasteride is the same, and that only a few doctors or pharmacies have a corner on the market, and you have to go to specific people to get this hush, secret formula of topical finasteride. It's all horseshit. It's marketing. Topical finasteride has been around for at least 6 years.
Dude, I can call just about any compounding pharmacy and say, look, can I get a prescription? If I get a prescription for a topical formulation of finasteride, you guys offer any type of topical formulations? And if they say either it's yes or not currently, but
we have to look into it.
But also your doc can actually just tell them what needs to be put into the compound,
right?
And they'll do it.
Yeah.
No problem.
The downside is if they've not been making it, then that first batch is going to cost you a couple $100. But
absolutely,
once they get more orders, then it does come down. But there are 56,000 compounding pharmacies in the United States alone. That blew my mind. 7,500 of them are what are classified as advanced compounding pharmacies, and they're the ones that have all the equipment to really streamline this. But what does that average out per state? 50 states in the union, you've got a lot of damn pharmacies. So literally throw a rock. I mean, you'll find a compounding pharmacy nearby, or you can find them online that'll ship to you. And you can get a prescription for this from even a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner. Anyone that can write a prescription can write you a prescription for topical finasteride.
Right.
So I find that absolutely mind-boggling when people are online saying you have to go to a specific place. Now, you do have to go to a specific place if you want a specific formulation.
Yeah. I don't find it mind-boggling. If there's a guy out there that's promoting a specific physician or a specific pharmacy that's selling a specific drug for whatever reason, then that's the reason why he's doing it.
Well, yeah, but the fact is that, when there are so many pharmacies out there, I guess a better way to say this is people should know that they can go anywhere they want.
Yes.
And if there is a specific pharmacy that has a product that's made a certain way, they can get a prescription from anyone.
Right.
Not literally, but relatively speaking, in the industry or that can write such a prescription.
Sure.
To go get that product.
Sure.
And that's probably the biggest one. And then the second one was the side effect issue. I've spoken to many people that have had some degree of side effects with topical finasteride, and my position is if it can absorb into the skin enough to do what it's supposed to do, some of it will go systemic, some of it will get into the bloodstream and cause potential side effects, just like the oral version. And that's with anything, any medication.
Well, let's put it this way. If topical minoxidil has been shown to be found systemically in your bloodstream, why wouldn't a drug that you need a vehicle in order to get that drug into your or below the epidermis into the system in order for it to work? As soon as it crosses that barrier, it becomes systemic. It is in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the way that it works. So there is a chance of side effects. But, yeah, I mean, obviously you're not taking a pill. Here's the only downside, and guys, we'll take your calls in a second, 888-659-3727. Here's the downside that I see with topical finasteride. I think it's a great alternative for those who are scared shitless or can't tolerate finasteride at all to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you're using finasteride, it's working on blocking that enzyme 5-alpha reductase type 2 and lowering DHT overall in your body, also increasing your free-flowing levels of testosterone. So essentially, every hair follicle on your scalp that is not DHT resistant is being affected if it's working for you by taking it systemically. When you are just putting on something topically, it's very difficult to cover the entire area of hair loss. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people don't understand is that you're miniaturizing usually all over your scalp to some degree if you're dealing with male pattern baldness.
Well said, yeah.
So that is something that most people just think, okay, you know, like those in the UK, they call it a bald patch. Here, it's a bald spot. They think, okay, I'm just going to, hook up my bald spot and maybe see some hair grow or see a cessation of hair loss. The truth is you may see a cessation of hair loss. And because there is some systemic effect, it could work to a certain degree as well all over the scalp. However, it's just not going to be as effective. People have to understand that as taking it orally. And I see nothing wrong with it. I mean, I know that Alan Bauman talked about it last week. There are a lot of doctors that are offering it. I'm so glad that there are doctors who are now offering topical Dutasteride for those who, could benefit from it. But people have to understand its limitations and the fact that there's no such thing as any drug that doesn't cause potential side effects. Let's take this call. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spence, Joe, it's Angelo.
Hey,
Angelo. What's happening, man? How are you?
Hey, what's up?
You know,
I'm all done, buddy. I went to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, you made it happen. All right, so tell us about it.
Fantastic.
All right.
Fantastic. Dr. Bolton is the coolest guy you ever want to meet. And he spent a lot of time with me, and he did more than what I paid for.
Well, you know what?
45 centimeter strip.
All right, and you know how many grafts he was able to get out of that?
No, he didn't. He don't go by grafts. He always goes by hairs. He said 9,000 hairs.
Okay, so your average would be if that's the case, that's about 4,500 grafts. That's a big case.
Yeah.
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 Well, I got to tell you, congratulations. I honestly, I wish you the best of luck, and I'm glad you had a good experience so far. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then no extra charge, and really a great guy.
Well,
I mean, fantastic.
That's great. So tell me about your day. What was the day like?
It picked me up at 10 o'clock, drove me to the office. I waited till doctor got there. He got there around 11:30, brought me in, asked me what I wanted done. I told him. He said, fantastic. I'll do the best I can for you. And he explained to me why I didn't get the results with the FUE, which
let's hear it.
Could be.
What did he say?
He said that a lot of grafts are transected when you do FUE, and they don't grow, so you really don't get what you're paying for. That was his feelings.
Well, it depends on who's doing it, how it's being done, and there is a greater chance. FUE is a blind procedure, no matter what tool people are using. So, I mean, there is an art to it, and it really depends on the tool. And it's possible that, you really don't know how many grafts are being transected if, A, people aren't checking under a microscope, and B, you're not being told. So it's very possible that 50% of those grafts were transected or somehow damaged during the dissection and extraction process, or even maybe something went wrong during the time it was in the holding solution, or it could have been there could have been crush damage during placement or folding damage. There's so many different variables. So it's really difficult to say exactly what caused your lack of growth. Transection is really the go-to as far as what most doctors will tell you, because they don't want to describe every possible nuance and detail of the surgery, because they don't want to scare you into thinking, wait a second, this could happen with any surgery.
Yeah, well.
Am I right about that, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my question, Angelo, is how you already had one procedure, and we know how the result turned out. But how would you compare the experience between both clinics?
Person to person, I really hit it off with Dr. Bolton. I didn't hit it off like I did with Dr. Yates as I did with Dr. Bolton. I mean, we hit it off.
Well, aside from the personal connection, like how would you rate your actual experience besides, whether or not, you hit it off with them or not?
Like from the time you got to the clinic, the reception area, just treatment from the staff, pre-surgical, post-surgical.
Beautiful. Everybody that worked on me was great. My consultant who picked me up was a great person. I mean, perfect experience. And and I explained to him that I'm going to get more without cost. He said, I wish you could come back here because I could make it really look good for you. He said, I still have more to take. He said, there'll be no problem getting more on a strip from you. And I was originally told from 2 doctors in Chicago, you're not a candidate for strip.
Okay.
Well,
here's what I like. Here's what I like about what I've heard so far. First off, you were turned down by 2 doctors, which tells me, that's always a good thing. I mean, when a doctor turns you down, you may not like it, you may not be crazy about it, but it tells me that they're operating within their bounds of comfort, which is a good thing to see in a doctor. But what you also told me about going down to Fort Lauderdale is that the doctor told you he'll do the best that he can for you. And I'm assuming that he wasn't telling you, I guarantee he'll do this or I guarantee he'll do that. I'll just do the best I can for you. Is that what he said to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I like hearing that. That's good. That's good, because I'm not a big fan of people promising things other than doing the best job that they can, because I think it puts them in a very difficult position, and it creates potential unrealistic expectations for the patient. So that's refreshing to hear that.
Look, all I can say is, go ahead.
He said, honestly, to cover your head and give you a good result, I'd probably have to be able to do 10,000 grafts to your hair, to your crown. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna do the best I can with what I could get.
Okay.
All right. Well, I mean that's realistic. I mean, he obviously he can't. You don't have 10,000 grafts in your bank, and obviously he's just trying to kind of give you an idea of your limitations, which I think is important. Here's the thing. Look, you hear a lot of good things. You hear a lot of not so good things about all doctors out there in the online world, and who are out there face forward. Doctors who have had problems in the past. I have always heard that Dr. Bolton seems to build good personal relationships with his patients, and I think that's really important. Making the patient feel very comfortable is really important. If you're comfortable with that experience from the initial contact to being picked up, to having your consultation, to having the surgery, to the post-op care, that is part of a psychological equation that you cannot, dismiss or diminish, that a lot of doctors do. So I think that's that's invaluable. And I'm really hoping that with the amount of grafts that you've had that you had placed, that you get a good amount of growth. The fact that it was done via strip means that it was transected in a three-dimensional way. There's someone in the chat room who's asking me to explain what a blind procedure means.
You saw that, good.
Right.
Yeah.
So essentially, FUE is blind because you can't see into the skin. So essentially, all doctors are able to do, or machines are able to do, is kind of guess the angle based on how the hair is exiting the scalp.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. Now, there are some instruments, with the right magnification where you can see slightly below the scalp line. And you can kind of see, to a certain degree, a shadow of the direction of where the follicle is, but you can't necessarily see if it's splayed. And you can't necessarily, it really becomes either a sense of feel, or when you're dealing with certain devices, a lot of it's luck. I hate to say it. So that's why it's a blind procedure. And that's currently. I think that will change. There are new devices that may be coming on the market that will make it a situation where people are going to be able to visualize things more.
Yeah.
And so, but when it comes to strip, you're taking that entire strip of tissue out of the scalp, closing up that scalp, and then you're putting that strip of tissue. First, you're slivering it, and then you're putting it under a microscope, and you're seeing the entire hair follicle in a three-dimensional way. So the technicians are able to cut around those follicles and keep them intact with the right amount of tissue, usually, especially if they know what they're doing. And there's a much slimmer chance of transection. Now, it doesn't mean that when you take out that strip, you're not going to be prone to transecting grafts, because just the act, even if you're very careful, of removing that strip with a single blade, you are transecting some hairs and destroying some hairs in that process.
Yeah.
But
here's my question.
Yeah.
When a doctor does a blind punch, before he puts that graft in, doesn't he actually see that was transected and not put it in? Is that what they do?
That's a great question. Angelo.
Yeah,
that's what we hope that they're doing.
I'll let Joe touch on that.
Yeah, it's a discussion and argument that's as old as FUE itself. Transection rates. It's a huge subject. I mean, we can't cover everything in a 2 or even sometimes 3 hour show, but transection has multiple definitions. There's general transection, there's partial transection, there's full transection, and there's it goes on. But the bottom line is what you're asking. Can't they see if the hair is transected or if the graft is transected before they put it back in? Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. And it's surprising, actually, when you look at the evidence, when you look at photos of some dishes that clinics have posted online where they're showing the grafts that are about to go into a scalp. In my video about celebrity hairlines, I actually have a picture of a dish I took from a website where they're showing the singles, doubles, triples, and quads that they took out with FUE, and I saw plenty of transection in the grafts. It was partial transection, and
but you see you see catagen hairs. You see hairs that. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean they're so visible, even honestly to the naked eye.
Yeah, it's well, and the idea behind that is, okay, we're going to plant this, but we know something will grow. Right. That's actually been discussed in conferences and workshops I've been to, where they actually have a slide up on the wall and they're talking about it. It's everyone knows this, and it's like, okay, well, here's a graft. They don't even talk about being transected. They just say yes, and we'll get 2 or 3 hairs out of this graft once it's grown. Not verbatim, but that's the message, and it's shocking actually. But Yeah, you'd think that they'd be able to look at these grafts, tell what's transected, and know whether or not to put it in the scalp. But it depends on what they feel transection means, and if they feel that they'll get at least one good hair out of it if it is transected or not. So.
Well, they're taking a shot, seeing if it'll grow. Really.
It's 100% shot. Well, yeah. But here's also the problem. You're going to see a lot of Petri dishes, and that's what Joe was talking about when he said dishes, when you're going to see the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4. You know, that this is, you know, you're not going to get a lot of 4 hair grafts. And when you take a look at those ones, those are the grafts that are supposed to be placed in the hairline. And if you look closely enough, you see these tiny bulbs, or just, you know, the possibility of a hair that even if the hair is not transected in the graft, they're setting them aside as 1 hair grafts, when in reality, that's going to grow into a 2 hair graft. And those are being placed in hairlines. And that's why we're seeing so many pluggy results today. And it's all out of sheer laziness and the fact that they just don't take the time to check each and inspect each and every graft that's removed from the scalp. So even if they're removed intact, they're still fucking up. Because who wants to walk around with a pluggy hairline? When you don't have to anymore. Those days are over.
Lucky we have guys like you who are bringing that out. You know?
Well, we're doing our best, man.
We're trying.
But listen, I appreciate the call. I'm glad things went well. And now I have one more question, then we're going to take another call. So now you've had both FUE and FUT. Now, obviously, the healing process with a strip is a little bit more difficult. Now, but in your experience, do you think it was worth it?
Absolutely.
And so right now you're a few days out. How does your head feel?
A few hours out.
Oh, you just had it done?
Today, yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't even
know. Hours out.
Holy cow. Well, I mean, so you're right now you're still on you're anesthetized to some degree. Have you taken any pain medication like Vicodin?
I just took one about an hour ago.
Okay.
Not that I needed it, but I didn't want it to.
No, you needed it, dude. Believe me, you just had your head cut open. So it's better that you did it. It's better that you did it before you really needed it.
Right, just to get the pain before it starts.
Yeah. Don't worry, I was one of those dudes too. If I had the pain medication, whether I needed it or not, I took it.
I'm still taking medication for my surgery 6 years ago.
Hey. Well, it makes you feel good.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I wish you the best of luck. Keep us, do me a favor, call us every few weeks. Let us know how you're doing. I think it's, listen, first of all, I'm glad that whatever issues the good doctor has been through, he's getting past. And if he's helping people, that's what matters. And I think it's, you know, the bottom line is, and while there are guys out there who aren't going to like me saying this, but whether this guy is an IAHRS member, whether or not we were able to accept him years ago, like I told you, the reason we were unable to accept him back when he applied is because he just did not have enough cases under his belt. That was it. So we didn't look any further. You know, it wasn't a big thing. There have been some issues
right now.
Some issues in the past,
all we
but
can say is
yeah, go ahead.
Is his bedside manner gets an A. Absolutely.
You know what?
Glad to hear it.
I think that's real. I think that's so important to hear, and I think so many doctors neglect to really pay attention to that aspect of a patient's experience. So far, you've had an A+ experience. I think that's great, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right, guys.
All right,
hang in there.
All right,
thanks for calling, Angelo.
You hang in there, dude, and don't sleep upright tonight. Don't forget.
I got my pillow on my head, my airplane pillow, and I'm sitting up.
Okay.
Good man.
And don't drink any alcohol.
No, just Vicodin.
Okay. All right, man. Take it easy. All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you, Angelo.
Sometimes these motherfuckers, they will go to the mini bar on the Vicodin.
Yeah.
And the swelling will be like 100 times. First of all, you could die from that shit.
their grafts wind up being on the ceiling.
Yeah,
swelling so bad.
The swelling is so bad. Even if you take one of those little bottles, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
888-659-3727. And I've seen guys who've posted pictures after those mistakes. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Oh, hey, Spencer. Hey, Joe.
Hey, who's this?
Hey.
It's Al from Houston.
Al from Houston, welcome.
Hello, Al. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Outstanding.
We are not bad, man. Things are pretty good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. So I have two questions. One about the show, and then one about hair loss. My first question is, I feel like you guys have been doing shows, it seems like almost every week, but I'm not seeing them come up as podcasts. Are you not, sending out recorded shows as podcasts anymore?
We are going to, but it's been totally my fault. I have to get the podcast out to GFQ. I don't like them to take the raw recording, and I've been extremely busy. So, and I'm OCD, so I don't trust anybody else to do that aspect of the editing. So totally my fault. We're gonna be putting out. We owe you guys like 10 podcasts on iTunes.
I was gonna say, because you've been doing a show a lot.
Yeah. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
Suncast.
And thanks for noticing. We've been doing the show a lot.
Yeah, Suncast. If you're listening.
Yeah, no. I listen every week.
Suncast. If you're listening, the stuff that I had edited, you can put up on GFQ's iTunes page. Go ahead. Sorry, man.
Here's my other question: is I feel like I am seeing like an epidemic of over-harvesting in FUE, both online and in the real world.
Oh, you are?
I travel a lot, and, like when you're in airports, you tend to see a lot of hair transplants because it's a lot of business people or whatever.
I was just about to say that.
And
every airport that I'm at, I was just in Vegas. It was, I couldn't even believe it. Where 10 years ago, I would see hair transplants walking around, but you have to really know what you're looking for. Now it's like you are in Turkey. It's insane. And I'm talking about
playing the slot at the airport, looking at FUE patients.
Dude, all I do is Norwood clock. I can't have any fun. That's my problem.
Yeah. Keep seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
But I was curious if
tell
you
us about
guys feel this way too. I just feel like I'm seeing all these guys over-harvested these days. And, when you're on the forums, your forum and the other forums, the numbers that you hear about these guys pulling in one session, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 grafts. A lot of those guys are clearly going outside the safe zone, and you can see, you see the rectangle in the back of their head. I was curious if you guys thought that this was the case too, or am I just a victim of sample error?
No, I'm actually going. I'll comment on it, then let Joe comment on it. But I would say that you're 100% correct. You have to go outside the safe zone in order to pull those many grafts, especially if you want to distribute the extractions as evenly as possible without drawing attention to that kind of rectangle of extractions. With that said, a lot of people aren't. Say they're using an artist, for instance. A lot of guys will just set up the tensioner and the zones and just go square by square by square by square straight across that sweet spot. And even though the machine is, the parameters are set to skip grafts, meaning maybe 1 millimeter apart, millimeter and a half apart, whatever it is, if you stick within those boundaries, you're definitely going to see a diminished area of donor hair in that area. It's going to be noticeable.
Sure.
Period. Now, the guys that are doing it by hand or using a neograft, there are some technicians who are doing it who really understand how to distribute the extractions better. But the truth is they have to go above and below what's normally considered the safe zone in order to make that happen. And that's why we really do preach. And there's some guys out there who don't agree with me. And these are some good doctors. But the only way to really do and to move as much hair safely is to do a hybrid procedure. And that's a combination of a minimum of one strip. I would say if you can get two, then you do two. and then the rest FUE. Joe, you're on.
I agree with that approach. Depending on what the ultimate long-term goal is, if you are looking to move as much hair as possible, then absolutely strip first. And I'm a classic example of that. I forgot the number now, but not including the first two procedures I had. I've had a lot.
It's 9, dude.
There's no way that anyone anywhere in the world could have gotten as many grafts as I've had via FUE only without my donor area turning into a dandelion. I mean, it's just mathematically not possible.
But the culture on the boards is kind of toxic. When guys say they had a 1,500 or a 2,000 graft FUE, everyone's like, oh, my God, you're an idiot. That wasn't enough. You're so stupid. Your doc is terrible. Like, the culture is like, there's a lot of cheerleading for these giant sessions, but I wonder how these guys look in a year.
Well, that's a great question.
It's a great question and a great observation, but there is a cheerleading mentality that forms when you got a couple of factors that contribute to this. First off, you have an anonymous arena where people can feel free to say whatever they want without consequences of saying, "Hey, Bob Smith, you can't say that." It's more like, "Hey, BOS 123, you can't." It's anonymous, so you can get away with a lot more. And you have this cheerleading aspect when in this very emotional arena of hair loss, you find someone that is telling you they can deliver what you want to have delivered to save you from this depression, from this this absolute destruction of your self-image, and they can do it in one procedure with 5,000 FUE. And you see some results that you like. You're going to be on his side, and you're going to get in these debates. And as time goes on, these people get more and more emotionally attached to this concept, to maybe a particular clinic, and they will come out swinging with profanity against anyone that doesn't agree with them.
I will say this.
I think it's sad.
And I agree. And I will say that I think it's really important for new guys. And you really, I thought it was really eloquent just using the word toxic, first of all. These are toxic environments. I have a very well-trafficked environment, which is quasi-toxic. We try to keep it as clean as possible, but it's just the nature of the game. That's what message forums are like, and especially in this arena, it's really ugly. I always tell people you never make a decision your first year. Now, my doctors, guys who are in the IAHRS, probably don't like to hear me say that. But you wait. If you really want to watch some cases, watch cases. See somebody a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out. See what decisions they make.
Second or third procedure later.
See what decisions they've made after they made that first, I'm going all in and running to Turkey to have a 5,000 graft procedure, or wherever they decide to go. Don't listen to the guys who are in their 20s. I'm sorry to say, I'm not saying all guys in their 20s are idiots, because they're not. There's some extremely successful men, obviously, in this world who've done really well in their lives in their 20s. I've met very few who are hair transplant patients. And that includes, masters of industry and, guys who are live their lives in front of the camera. There's a lot of mistakes being made. And because this is a very uniquely emotional issue, and we are all reared to believe and put doctors on pedestals, and since the industry's been so commoditized, it's so confusing, and no one knows what the fuck. They get information online, they're like, okay, they go to the doctor's office, they grill the consultant, saying that they want these many grafts per square centimeter, and we want this, we want it to cost this much, and so on and so forth. And Dr. Bauman brought this up last week. If you were going in for open heart surgery, you wouldn't be having these conversations. You know?
Right. You would say, do what's right to save my life and make me right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You may do some research, I would definitely do some research.
Of course, yeah. You want to know what you're getting into, but you don't go in. First off, you don't go in and start grilling them on the details. And second, you don't go grilling them on the price.
So you're going to ask me,
you don't go price shopping for heart surgeons.
What number and what model forceps are you using? You know, and what chest breast spreader are you using on me?
Yeah,
and all that shit. You know, it's a ridiculous. It's actually comical when I see what's going on online. And I'm not saying that you should not be educated, but people are educating themselves, in my view, about the wrong things.
But, you know, I think Joe said something really telling. You know, Joe described the forums as an arena. Like, the word arena means sand, like where barefoot gladiators fought on sand. Like, that's what it is sometimes. Like, the shit that happens on the forums is off the hook.
Oh, it's insane.
Dude, I was a gladiator, like, for many years in that arena. That's where I cut my teeth. I mean, I know it better than most, and I've developed a sense for who's legitimate, who's not, who's probably got multiple aliases.
I know for a fact who has multiple aliases.
Yeah, and it's my word arena, your word toxic go hand in hand on that one, because it is a toxic arena. Huh? You'll see what I did there? Huh? Anyway. But it's just bad news.
FUE thing. You know, I've called you guys before. I've had FUT twice with very good outcome. I'm happy with it. But, you know, if I ever had a third surgery, I got to tell you, I'd probably have another FUT before I had an FUE, unless it was very, very small, because I worry a lot about that over-harvested look.
Well, I will tell you that. I mean, I just had a few drinks after this conference with Dr. Mark Dower, who is a hair transplant recipient himself. Looks fantastic in person, by the way. And I think he's had 3 surgeries. And Dr. Dower, if you're listening, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe 2, but I'm pretty sure it's 3. He is a great FUE surgeon as well. He understands the nuances of both strip and FUE, and he chose to have strip. What does that tell you?
Sure.
You know, he understands that he needs
when push came to shove, he went with what he thought was best for him.
He went with what he thought was best for him, his hair characteristics. He knew that he had another strip in him. He knew that, there's only one way to get 100% of that DHT-resistant hair in that given area. You can never do that with FUE. And, I say this all the time. And I said it, I just did an interview with Dr. Paul Rose, and we talked about this. And he obviously tried to make me feel good about the situation. But I said, sometimes I regret really pushing these guys to take a serious look at the Woods technique, because it's gone out of fucking control. And then the device makers picked up on it, and now it is fucking haywire. My whole idea was like, look, this guy's got another tool in the toolbox that you guys can use for guys who are stripped out, for guys who, may not make candidates for more than one strip because they have very tight scalps, for guys who, would be so shit scared to have a hair transplant because they don't want that linear scar, but they may benefit from a small procedure. Just being able to do it correctly, I thought, and learn this procedure, I thought would benefit the entire field. I could never have imagined what it would have turned into and what it has turned into. And sadly, FUE, in my view, the way that it's being promoted as the true state-of-the-art procedure out there, has destroyed the field and is destroying a lot of lives.
Well, it's like, we talked about the airport earlier. Every single airline magazine has 1 or 2 FUE ads in it.
Of course.
Yeah. I just.
And those, they're very high-pressure ads, the way they're written in the pictures they show. They make it look like only a fool or an idiot would have FUT. But let me tell you, like I said, I had FUT twice. I have 0 regrets.
Who'd you go with? I forgot.
I don't say. You guys have asked it before. I never say because I don't want to. I don't want to do an ad. But it's somebody you guys know who you've had on the show.
Okay.
Well, I had a lot of guys on the show.
We've had a lot of guys on the show.
Yeah, I
but
know.
okay.
I don't pimp them out.
Yeah, but if you're happy, there's nothing wrong with it.
Let me say
No,
something.
I
Okay,
just
listen.
I just
Let me say this.
don't say who did it.
I think that your position on that is admirable. I really, really do.
I do too.
However, I have to say that if you have had legitimately had a great experience, not once but twice, I think in today's age, with so much damage being done, forgive me for saying this, but I think it's your duty to at least encourage people to understand where you had such a great experience, so that maybe, okay, well, you know what, this makes sense. Maybe I can look at this guy and maybe they can have the same experience as well. Because when the good guys that are doing good work, making people happy like you, are not brought to the forefront, I think it's, I don't know, I wish that you would. I wish that you would say who it was.
Yeah, I'll consider it a bit.
I mean, don't if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But I believe in sharing. I believe in paying forward what you've learned. You've obviously been on the forums and you learned about whoever you went through from other people that shared their experience. So I think it's nice to kind of give back a little bit.
Yeah, I give them some props online, but when we're on the show, you guys always ask me, but I never say. I'll think about it a little bit, but
no pressure.
For now, I'll choose to keep him anonymous.
That's fine. But your thing about the airline ads, I'll go on record. I think one of the greatest ads of the 21st century so far is the one that Neograph put in the in-flight magazines.
Fucking brilliant. Elegant,
with the two
simple.
back of the heads.
Yeah,
that changed it. That was a game changer. That
I knew right then. I was like,
the shit's
we're
over.
Fucked.
Yeah.
Done. Stick a fork in us. It's like there's no way that we can fight that. I mean, we can, but it's like the amount of work that I had to do to educate people after that doubled. Like the education I had to put in, I had to put a lot of work to educate people.
I can tell, and I'm trying to figure something out here because it's not on my computer. I wanted to play a audio segment for you guys, but I had an exchange online today and yesterday. I saw a huge window ad for a company that's now using Neograft, and this is a big cosmetic surgery. It's like a multiple surgical suite building on Santa Monica Boulevard, and it's just window after window after window of device ads. Like, we do Neograft, we do cool sculpting, we do this, we do that, we do the other thing. And
I bet it works.
On the Neograft ad, somebody just drew some graffiti in the guy's hairline, and I had to take a picture of that. And I essentially wrote, this is the future. Welcome to the future of your field, guys.
Yeah.
You guys have about 36 months to correct the trajectory of this field. Otherwise, every consumer is fucked. And all of you guys who are out there trying to make a living, doing things the right way, are going to be screwed. And we got some interesting results. Guys, call back. We will take your call in a second. 888-659-3727.
All right, well, listen, I'll let you guys go and take another call.
It's okay.
I'll be looking for those podcasts.
You know what? Thank you for reminding me. I promise you there will be like 5 up this week.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Maybe
I'll be
4.
listening every week.
Thanks
or
for calling
3.
now.
Okay, take it easy. Thanks a lot.
Right, bye, guys.
Guys, phone lines are open, 888-659-3727. I'm going to take a quick break, and I want to see if I could find or somehow get this audio clip on my main computer here so I can play it for you guys, because I think it's interesting. Guys, hold on. Phone number 888-659-3727. If you want to call us, we are here to answer your questions. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
The man who's helping to make hair loss history.
They wish to cure us, but I say we are the cure.
It's Spencer David Kobren.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And the funny thing is is that I've learned to overcome it, and I've had a much I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh no, it's cool, dude. Let me tell you, it took a long time.
I want to scream, I want to shout, I want to know what it's all about.
Yeah, you know, it really is amazing about all the bad transplants you do see out there. I mean, I was on the train the other day, and I saw 3 guys in one car,
yeah,
subway. That it was horrible. It was a horror show. I mean, they didn't hear you, and that's a problem. That's why you have to guys get out there and get as mainstream as you can.
You've got to pull yourself together, man. You've got to get back on your feet again. How can I ever make you understand? You've got the will right in your head.
You know, I went to Dr. Bernstein only because of you guys. You know, God forbid I would have went to somebody else like Bosley. Bottom line, I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs system places, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
Bud Light presents Real American Heroes.
Real American heroes.
Today we salute you, Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
More than any neon sign or exploding scoreboard ever could, your chrome dome cover says, "Hey guys, look at me."
What could you be thinking?
You think it looks natural, but it couldn't look phonier if it had a chin strap. Made of space-age fibers, it can repel anything. Rain, wind, snow, and especially young women.
I don't think so.
So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light, Mr. Stud in a Rug. Then crack open another for that thing on your head.
I don't think it's all straight.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
This sounds very gay.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always down and out about their haircut.
I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair club system places, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for the long delay and the fact that I have to keep playing the same production over and over again. But since we are using YouTube Live, and I haven't gone through all of my production, I figure we will use the safest stuff that we can use. Now, Joe, I was able to figure out how to log in to what I need to log into in order to get these segments that I produced. Now, these are segments that are going to go online in the very near future. And they are segments that we call Undercover Doc and Undercover Tech segments. What I decided to do this year is really, and obviously we're going to be putting this on Hair Transplant Podcasts, the Hair Transplant Podcast page on YouTube as well, and other places. But I don't think guys really, there's only so much that we can do. There's only so much that we can say. There's only so much information that you and I can provide these guys with to convince them of how fucked up this industry really is. When I was in talks, and I still am in talks with some of the, the grand poobahs over at the other organization, I tried to convey to them just the importance of not being afraid to get the truth out about what's happening in the field, not thinking that by allowing this information to get out there that it's somehow going to diminish the entire industry. On the contrary, all it's going to do is let people know that there are safe places and there are much less safe places. And sadly, there are fewer safe places, only a handful to really go to. So what does that mean? For all of you guys who support, like IAHRS members, Truth in Advertising, and everything that we do, and the fact that surgery is a last resort, and that, you know, our messaging, you guys benefit. So all these guys have a certain distinction. That's powerful for them. But there's a lot of other good guys out there who may not have applied to the IAHRS, who don't have 500 cases under their belts, who can't be accepted at this point, who are willing to do the work and actually help patients. And there is fear among the large organizations, in my view, like the IAHRS, to get these truths out to the public. What I chose to do this year is, besides doing it ourselves, and besides me doing it, is let the people in the trenches speak for themselves and get the information out there. So let me see if I can get this to play, and hopefully you guys can listen to this segment of, I can't get it to air visually, but I can definitely get it to air audio-wise at this point. But take a listen to this.
Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
And a case can be made for using a larger punch in certain situations for certain patients. So I understand that, and I have my preferences and what I think heals better and typically looks better and leaves less scarring.
Right.
But when people are using these devices, they're setting them up before they've even met the patient. So the technicians are trained to come in and load the device, get everything ready, and typically they're taught by the device company, just load it with the biggest punch, because that's during their training and that's what's easiest to learn with. Even though they've never seen the patient, they have no idea what this patient's donor looks like. They have no idea what the hair tendencies are. They don't know what type of tissue they may have. There's no prerequisite. It's just let's use what's easiest. And you can tear someone's donor up very, very easily if you're just using a big punch and going with the standard settings, whatever's easiest to get the grafts. And this is not any specific device, but when people are first getting into hair transplant, they think there's a formula to get this done, to do this. And there are surprises in every single case that I've worked in. I can count the number of times that I've had a case that goes exactly as planned, that everything works out. You know, the day is exactly the length that I thought it was going to be. Placing took the amount of time I thought it was going to take. Harvesting was spot on. You know, there's always something. The patient may bleed more than you think, and doctors jump into this thinking like there's an anesthesia mixture that's going to work for every single patient. When every single patient is very different, and sometimes you kind of have to tailor the amount of anesthesia that you use or the mix that you use. Some patients need a little more epi. Some, have very minimal bleeding, and you can get away with less epi and more bicarb. So there's a lot of different things that go into every single aspect of it. And people jump into this thinking it's kind of one size fits all, and I can use the same punch, the same tool, the same anesthesia mixture, this formula that they come up with to do hair transplant. And I think doctors who have been doing this and, are maybe purchasing devices or FUE tools that have been doing FUT for some time are less susceptible to falling into this trap. But
exactly,
new doctors are jumping into FUE, which is what I'm seeing. So most of the doctors that I work with are strictly FUE. It's just something they've kind of added onto their practice as a way to make money, and it's something that's easy and they don't have to be super involved. They start with the misconception that hair transplant is just a one-size-fits-all, very easy thing.
Well, I mean, that's Listen, I mean, the vast majority of new clinics, guys who are just popping up, buying whatever device, it's FUE all the way. And sadly, I'm actually starting to see the pendulum swing in the other direction as more patients are having FUE and maybe going through for their second case, say they're 2 or 3 years out. Now they're starting to go on the message forums or contacting us directly and saying that now they've been told that, they're going to need at least one strip in order to meet their goals because they're essentially FUE'd out. Now, the best course of action for these patients would have been to have the strip initially and then go in afterwards to have FUE so that all of that sweet spot donor area could have been used correctly and it's not decimated by whatever tool was used. So now they have even more limitations than they expected. And they were trying to avoid a linear scar to begin with, but they're going to end up having to have a linear scar plus thousands of punctate wounds, which they wouldn't have had before if they were given the proper education, if they went in to see a doctor who does both FUE and FUT. Now, that is obviously not the most, it's pretty compelling, but it's, I'm kind of going to tread a little lightly at first as I start to put these segments out. But the truth of the matter is, when you're told by someone who is essentially performing your surgery that the vast majority of new doctors out there who are either buying whatever device it is, they are not only not involved in the surgery or barely involved in the surgery, they're not setting up those devices. Those devices are being set up on essentially the easiest possible settings. These technicians don't have any clue what you look like, what your hair characteristics are like. The doctor probably didn't do an assessment to say, hey, this guy looks like he's going to, we're going to be able to use whether, say, it's an artist machine, a 19 gauge or an 18 gauge needle. With this device. So set him up with this. Let's try a few and see what happens. They go straight for autopilot in most cases. And then they may see what happens. And I found it interesting that she noted that what could happen in any situation, whether it's a NeoGraft or a SmartGraft or any system that's being used, if it's not used correctly, you will tear up that donor area.
Yep.
No one fucking truly comprehends this. They think, well, what doctor is going to do this to me?
And while they can't comprehend this, on the flip side, a lot of these clinics, they just don't care.
They also don't know.
They don't care, and they don't know. But this is exactly what happened to the caller last week from Hawaii.
Yes, which is sad, actually.
Where the technicians flew in. This mirrors exactly what you're talking about in what your undercover tech was talking about. His technicians flew in the night before from Los Angeles to Hawaii.
Right.
That's a 6-hour flight.
Right.
They were tired.
Oh, forget about
next morning they're doing FUE on someone they've never seen before.
Forget about the fatigue factor. Forget about the hangover factor. Even in the best possible hands, the best circumstances, this particular technician is incredible at what she does. And she is able to really make an assessment, and I would say a really professional judgment, as good, if not better, than most doctors in the field. That's just my opinion, based on who she is. And you're going to hear other segments. She has had to walk out of cases. She has had to refuse that day's pay, and can no longer work for certain doctors because they say, look, we've sold 2,700 grafts. That's what you got to get. That's it. Come hell or high water.
Yeah. It's
imagine if you pay for, say, 2,500 grafts. Now, the doctor's already paid the device maker for those grafts, those attempts. That's $2,500 out of his pocket. So no matter what, those technicians have to show him that they were able to get 2,500 grafts. But the fact of the matter is, only 1,600 grafts that were extracted are viable. So what do? They cut up the viable grafts.
Chop, chop, chop.
So they can insert the entire amount that was paid for.
Yeah.
And that is something that no one will tell you guys. But that happens, especially in the newer clinics, every single day. Let's take a call. 888-659-3727. It's pretty compelling shit, at least to me. I mean, I'm a hair geek. So
It is for me, too.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm calling from San Diego.
Hey, Dan.
Hey,
Welcome.
Dan.
How are you?
Hi there. I want to thank you both right off the bat. I've been, sort of standard long-time listener, first-time caller. Joe, I follow a lot of your information online, and you guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. I have two main questions today. So I'm 37, and I started noticing my own hair loss when I was about 20, 21 in the crown area. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough that was pretty soon after finasteride was approved by the FDA. So that was, I got on it really soon after. I think it was within less than 6 months of my noticing it.
That's great.
And for the first, I'd say year and a half, it worked great. Honestly, in the crown region, it was as though it had been completely reversed. I was just amazed. But soon after that, it seemed to gradually lose potency. And so I made the decision after consulting with an endocrinologist and reading up what I could to, after, what is that? I'm 37 now. I started it when I was about 21. I was on finasteride for 16 years. So I decided to get more aggressive, and I switched to Dutasteride. And I've been on Dutasteride now for 3 months. I haven't noticed any change, no side effects that I'm noticing yet at all, but it's still early. So,
it's not that early. It's not that early to notice side effects, in my view. I would say that there's a lot of guys, if they do experience side effects, it usually happens pretty early on. Now, that's not to say that there can't be a latency period or side effects can't occur down the line. But for the average case, in general, it happens within the first, I'd say, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I'm not a doctor.
I feel really lucky.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been on it on some sort of alpha reductase inhibitor now for well over a decade, and sexually, as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with me. So, I'm going to wait and see.
You have to check out your girlfriend's Facebook page or something just to.
Right, something like that. So I wanted to get your guys' overall thoughts on Dutasteride. I mean, I know that I believe it's Japan and Korea, it's approved for male hair loss. Do you guys have any thoughts as to, why we've seen such a delay or a decision to not go forward with pursuing that indication for Dutasteride?
Money.
Go ahead.
Money.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, in my view, when push came to shove, they realized how much Merck wasn't making off of Propecia at a certain point when they were going to pursue FDA approval for Dutasteride as another hair loss drug, and they decided to move in another direction. Also, it has a longer half-life, and the adverse side effects were, if people experience them, there's a higher percentage of people who experienced them, and they lasted longer. So all those factors involved, in my view, is why GlaxoSmithKline decided not to pursue it for hair loss.
I heard rumblings that it was also because they look at the overall market, and they thought that there wasn't as much of a differentiation between the Merck product and their product, to where they would be able to stand out and really recoup the investment of the FDA approval process, which is extremely expensive, and the development costs to begin with.
Right.
Because they'd have to probably package it in a different dosage. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but same thing with Proscar and Propecia. It was 5 milligrams originally, and then 1 milligram.
In order to stand out, they also would have had to go for both crown approval and hairline approval. So you're talking about a lot of money that it was a business decision. And so I mean, I hope that allays your fears as to why, because it is an FDA-approved drug in the U.S. It's just not FDA-approved for hair loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and if anything, I may be reducing my risk for some form of prostate growth down the line, but that remains to be seen. And
I'll tell you this, and this is, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to be 53 years old, and I get my PSA levels checked just out of habit. My doctor actually is anti-PSA, and so are most. A lot of urologists at this point, because there's just so many variables, and a lot of people who do end up having, higher PSA levels end up having unnecessary procedures, end up having unnecessary issues that, there's just a lot of, it's really not the norm at this point to have it as part of your regular checkup after the age of 40 or after 50, like it used to be.
Right.
With that said, I do always ask, not because I like it, Joe, but for the digital rectal exam, and the doctor is just like, they could barely find my prostate. So it's literally,
and they use the glove that goes up to the elbow. So
it's literally the size of a pea. And this guy's got fucking banana hands. I picked the wrong doctor. Next time, I'm going for an Asian dude. So is that racist? I mean, in general, they're just smaller people. They have smaller hands.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, this guy's like Anthony Robbins, man. I mean, those fucking hands are unbelievable. It's frightening. But you know what? I still say, just do it. So I. No, but honestly, I'll say that I don't know. I always say this. I don't know if I'm going to be diagnosed with some bizarre form of cancer tomorrow. But as of now, I've been on this drug for well over 2 decades on a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, and I've had no side effects, except the guy in the room said he didn't want me to talk about it. The being kicked in the ball pain when I was much younger, and a lower amount of seminal fluid. So I'm not shooting ropes. That's it. Otherwise, I've been great.
You know, if I have to be completely honest, the only thing I've noticed, so again, on finasteride for 16 years, now on Dutasteride, so for a while, after I started taking finasteride in my mid-20s, after I would urinate, I would get just like a little bit of like dribbling from, just stopping urination. It would still dribble just a slight amount. I don't know if that was at all related, but that's the only thing
it can be.
Did
it resolve itself?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
That lasted, I don't know, for maybe a year or two, and it went away. That issue hasn't come back. So
yeah,
remember to do your Kegels.
Yeah,
that helps.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm doing them right now.
Okay.
So let me ask. Sorry. Yeah. Before you get to your question, let me ask you. And this has to do with your original Propecia use. You said the first year and a half you noticed a really impressive return, but what happened after that? Like, was it a continuous thinning in the crown for the next 16 years, or did it kind of fall back and then stabilize?
It fell back and it stabilized. It was to the point where no one knows their hair like a anxious bald man, or a balding guy. So I knew that I had less, but if people weren't looking for it, they wouldn't find it.
By the way, I'm writing down the time code on that because I'm making some new production for the show, and that was a fucking great line.
Which one?
No one knows their hair like an anxious bald guy.
Yeah, that's good. TM.
So balding man.
Yeah.
The reason I asked about that is because I've heard this from a lot of people, and I have issue with the idea that medication works and then suddenly doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
and
I think that a better way to describe what happened to you, or what happened in your case, is that when you started taking the medication, you've got all these different hairs in your scalp going through different stages of the growth cycle: telogen, catagen, anagen, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens when you're taking these medications, a lot of the hair that's being affected by DHT actually gets reset all at the same time, roughly, give or take a few weeks. And so that's why some people will have a shed. They'll even go through a telogen effluvium, right? More hairs are being affected and reset than aren't, and you notice the thinning. But eventually it comes back, and all of it is coming back at the same time. Now, I don't have anything to back this up. This is just on observation over the years, but I believe that there is almost like a second reset over time where the hairs kind of, gradually move back into their original growth cycle, and that means that it's not going to be as full as it was at its peak, if that makes any sense. So everything's kind of settling down and getting back into its normal routine, and then, like you said, maintaining. I think that's potentially what happens.
It's actually like kind of, and I think that's actually a very unique explanation that most doctors would not even think of describing. But it's almost like when women become pregnant, forget about postpartum telogen effluvium, but during their pregnancy, the increase of estrogen in order to carry that child to term is so great that a woman's hair is at her absolute best. It appears to be fuller, thicker, and shinier than it ever has in her entire life. I think there's a similar effect, and again, this is all anecdotal, and we are not doctors. When you first start to take a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, if you catch the hair in an anagen phase. And so I hear stories like yours all the time. And then it becomes almost like a postpartum effluvium. People will go through a shed or all of a sudden to think the medication stopped working, and then it all stabilizes after a year or so.
Yeah,
and sometimes
I've seen this with hair
longer.
transplant surgery where all the grafts that are taken aren't always in the same stage of their growth cycle. You may have all these hairs in anagen, but some might be at the beginning of anagen and some might be at the latter stages of anagen before they go into catagen and telogen. And then when they're transplanted, they're all reset and they all start coming in over the next several months. And that's why I'm very convinced of this. You see not a lot of people, but a lot of the cases where someone says after a year and a half to 2 years, my transplanted hair is falling out. No, it's not falling out. It's just those hairs are getting back into their original growth cycle. And the overall fullness that one may have experienced 1 year post-surgery is not there a year and a half or 2 years post-surgery. So it's a similar issue with what I think that you probably went through.
That's interesting. It's some sort of like re-staggering of growth cycle effect. I don't know what you would call it. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just resetting. It's just there's a double reset that goes on. A reset on the initial treatment, and then a reset to get back to its original growth cycles.
Okay.
All right, dude, listen.
Okay.
I wish you the best of luck. I'm glad. So now, essentially, you're stable again.
The frontal hair loss keeps progressing, and the crown. I think it's getting worse and worse, to be honest.
All right, but I mean, it's a slow process, extremely slow. I mean,
it's slow. It's slow. It's just I think I'm finally reaching the age where I can no longer cleverly disguise it with the right amount of brushing and styling. It's reaching the point where I'm like, well,
more hairspray is needed, right?
That's what's happened to me today. I look like I'm wearing a hair beret at this point, like right now. I don't know what happened today. But it was
now,
just,
at any point, did you ever switch to generic away from name brand?
Oh, to be honest, I've only, I used name brand finasteride for the first, for as long as, I forget when generics were available for finasteride, but as soon as it became available as a generic, I switched. I don't remember when that was.
And are you taking generic Dutasteride or name brand Avodart?
Generic, yeah.
Okay.
Which I know there are views on both sides of the aisle when it comes to that argument.
Spencer and I both are brand whores. It's like why risk it? There is a cost, obviously, and Avodart's not the cheapest medication in the world. But if you're going to take it, I think, especially if you're starting out new, I think it absolutely makes sense to start with a name brand to establish that as a baseline, because that's what is if it's going to work is going to it's going to work. And then if you want to try generic after that, then you'll have a baseline to compare. So if you're having good results with name brand, you switch, and 6 months later you're thinning. It might be logical to assume that your generic might not be as effective, or the supply might not be as consistent. The whole generic side of the industry is really interesting and complicated, but always understand that when you're dealing with generics, when you're going to the pharmacy and you're picking up your month's supply again or whatever, you are picking up the brand that came in with the lowest quote for that shipment for that pharmacy, right? Because that's how they do that. They're looking for the lowest cost supplier to bring in their generic. And I don't know. I mean, if that's something you're comfortable with, then that's fine. I'm not. I'm a brand whore. I gotta stick with the name brand on that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good argument. I hear you.
I'll give you an example, and then we're going to take another call right now. But I was in San Francisco with the Zarian family, and I forgotten my ProScar, and it was almost 2 weeks since I had taken one. So I was like, "Holy shit! I got to get a script for this." I called the doctor that prescribed the prescription. He sent it in. He knows to write brand. Apparently, they didn't have brand. So the Walgreens that filled the prescription gave me generic. I'm like, I can't take this shit. There's no way that I am taking a chance and taking this right now, especially since it was almost 2 weeks since I've taken a pill. So imagine, I don't know if you know San Francisco well, but trying to get across town in San Francisco traffic. So we found a Walgreens that had brand name ProScar, and it took us like an hour and a half to get there. And these people thought I was out of my fucking mind. But I did it because that's how important my hair is.
Sure, that's what's worked for you.
That's what it is.
So they wound up having dinner at 3 a.m.
Whatever. We got to the point where I'm like, you know what? They were going to leave. I said, they were going to stay in this other hotel. You know what? I'll get you a room here where we were staying, so we were all hanging out again. But anyway, I took a lot of time out of their day just to fill a prescription, and people thought I was insane. But that's the way I roll. All right, dude. Listen, I wish you the best of luck. Let us know if you start to see positive results. And I'm glad that you're not having any adverse side effects. I don't see any reason why you should after all these years on it.
I think you're probably fine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Spencer and Joe. I really appreciate your time and expertise.
All right, man. You got it.
Great
Good
talking
luck.
to you.
Great talking to you. 888-659-3727. Man, my voice is just a frog in my throat today. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Spencer. Hey, how you doing, Joe?
Hey.
Good. Who's this?
This is Rich.
Hey, Rich. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Where are you from?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Rich, where are you from, Rich?
Don't do it.
New Jersey.
Rich from New Jersey. What's happening? Have you called before?
Never called the show, but I always listen.
Well, thank you for listening, man. Welcome.
He was in the chat room talking about how he's booked with an FUE for $1,500, and people were saying, "Don't call in; they'll talk you out of it."
Well, it depends on your age. It depends who you're going to, and it depends on your situation. But there's a chance we will try to talk you out of it. So go ahead.
What's going on?
Well, I'm 50 years old.
All right.
I'm probably a 5 or a 5A, I guess.
Sad to say that in my mind you're a young man, but go ahead.
Yeah. I started losing my hair when I was about 30. Started to thin out.
Yeah.
I still have my temporal points, so I know I listen to you guys, and you say that's really important.
That's great.
Yeah, good for you.
So, I've been waiting for 20 years, so I think it's time for me.
Well, okay. And it may be time for you. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And having your temporal points and having them, that's what saved my ass as far as just the general look. Even though my hairline is recessed and I kind of comb, depending on, especially today, I'll comb it down. the strength of maintaining those, and I believe that I maintain them with the use of finasteride, has given me so many more options as far as how my ability to style my hair today with what I have, and B, if I choose to do something, then if I wanted to lower my hairline, I'd feel a lot more confident doing that. So you're in especially at 50, to maintain your temporal points, that's really a great thing. So I understand the fact that, okay, you waited 20 years, it's time, but what kind of research have you done?
Oh, I've done a lot of research.
All right.
I mean, I've been researching for like 2 years.
All right. Well, talk about it.
What can I say? I mean, I've gone to see a couple of guys in New York.
All right.
In-person consultations.
Good.
What else can I say? I've done some Skype with doctors.
Mm-hmm. Have you met any patients of these doctors?
I did meet. I've met 2 patients, but not of the doctor that I've chosen.
Okay.
I just didn't get to meet one.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if I can mention the doctor.
You can say whatever you want on the show.
Absolutely.
Except don't make fun of my hair.
Well, I've chosen to go with Dr. B in Los Angeles.
Dr. Baubac.
Yeah.
Dr. Baubac. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you that the fact that you're going to fly all the way out here, you've picked a good guy. I have to say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You picked a really good guy. It's funny. I mean, he's been around for a while. What's interesting about this guy is, and this is how old I am, he started listening to my show when he was in medical school. And he said that my advice helped to guide him. And then he ended up getting transplant, and he said it changed his life. So when he said that to me, he applied to the organization and said that to me, I was thrilled and depressed all at the same time. But no, he is a really caring, he's a really good doctor.
He's a hair geek.
Yeah, he's a hair geek. You'll be talking to him for an hour before your procedure. You got to tell him, just listen, dude. We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah, can we get on with the show?
Yeah.
So first off, when you're doing your research, what was it that led you to Dr. B? I mean, I love hearing about veterans like you. You've been around forever. You've obviously done this right. Meeting some patients and doing multiple consultations, meeting doctors in person. But what was it that made you choose Dr. B, Dr. Baubac?
Actually, one was your video on him, his hairline. Then I followed up and I went and I said, let me look at these hairlines and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I tried to compare that with other work. And I said, I think this guy's pretty good.
Okay.
That's basically how I did.
And I'm just asking these questions because this is kind of, I'm curious about this, your thought process. So you said that you're a Norwood 5 or 5A. Is that what you said? Because those are 2 very different designations.
Well, they've told me between a 5 and a 5A. That's what I got.
Okay. So is your crown gone or is it bald?
I have some crown.
Some crown. Okay. So it's thinning. Okay. Pardon me. How many grafts were recommended for you? How many are you going for?
Going to go for 4,000.
Okay. All right. The reason I was asking is because I for some reason 1,500 popped in my mind. I'm thinking that doesn't compute. Maybe someone else in the chat room was saying that, but with that kind of loss that you've experienced, and you focused in on the hairlines, I was curious. I wanted to know more about your thought process, but that makes more sense. So that's good. You obviously had some sort of consultation with the clinic, and how have they what's the question I'm looking for? How have they, I don't want to say treated you, but what was the interaction like when you're dealing with them? With the clinic and with the doctor? With
Dr. B's office, you mean?
Yeah.
His, I guess, what do you call it? The advisor there?
Yeah.
Very nice guy. Always, if I had a question, he would always, I think I bothered him a lot with back and forth emails and, talking on the phone.
Okay.
Very accommodating, very informative. I think like Spencer said, I think I made a good choice,
Well,
fingers crossed.
Here's the thing. Keep your fingers crossed. I think he made a very good choice. And you can be fucked up by anybody. That's just the way that it is. However, he's extremely hands-on. He's performing the surgery himself. He's performing extractions, or excisions and extractions, or dissecting the grafts himself. He is a guy that, in my view, is thinking 2 steps ahead. So as opposed to just saying, hey, wait a second, I'm going to just see what I can get out of this particular area, he's going to be thinking, okay, I need these many grafts for, these many 2 hair grafts for this area of the hairline, these many 3 hair grafts, and let's see what we can do as far as getting, 4 hair grafts out or 3 hair grafts out, and then trim those down to 1 hairs for the hairline. And he's kind of thinking about the process as he's extracting. The reason I know this is because I've had endless conversations with this dude. Like I said, this guy will not stop talking hair, and it's cool. I'm a hair geek, so it's if I were to go to somebody, I would have a lot of confidence in a guy who is that into what he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay.
So, but it's cosmetic surgery, dude. I always tell people that. I don't care if he's an IAHRS member. He applied. I guess it's almost a year now,
right,
or something like that. 6 months or 8 months since I brought him on board.
Yeah.
But I've been watching him for a very long time, and I am not seeing any complaints from his clinic as far as the work is concerned. I've had some issues with like correspondence issues and stuff like that, but that's about it.
Okay.
So I think
Can I ask one quick question?
You made a good choice. It's interesting that
Yes.
you're coming from the East Coast to the West Coast to get it done, and that takes. To me, that means you did a lot of research. But go ahead, ask your question.
So far what I see is that he's a firm believer in PRP. What do you guys feel about PRP?
I'll let Joe answer as well, of course, but my thing is that all PRP is not created equal. And currently there are some findings that many of the systems out there that are being used for PRP, whether they're open systems, closed systems, FDA-approved systems, non-FDA approved systems. I was just going over some video that I did with Paul Rose. I thought he tested more systems, but I think he tested 9 systems. Out of the 9 systems they tested down in their clinic, this is Dr. Rose and Dr. Bernie Nussbaum, only 3 actually enriched the platelets to a degree that made any difference. So what does that mean? That means that the other 5 devices had negligible changes as far as what they were re-injecting, what people are re-injecting into people may be plasma, but it's not platelet-rich plasma.
And does that have to do with the speed of the centrifuge, or
it's not necessarily just a centrifuge. It's the entire system itself. So they're coming out with they're going to be writing a paper. I'm going to be putting out some videos. It does seem, though, that in Dr. Baubac's office, he's claiming that he's getting some very nice results. And I don't know if you've seen any of his results, Joe, for his PRP.
I don't believe I have. I wasn't evaluating that. I was looking at the surgical side of things and patient care.
Yeah, that's really all that I look at. I'm always like, you do PRP at your own risk. But I am absolutely a believer that if PRP is done correctly and you're actually increasing those growth factors and re-injecting them into the scalp, then you're going to see results. to some degree.
Right.
The problem is you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Right.
My question to you, Rich, is throughout this entire process and in your battle against hair loss, what have you done to stop it? What's your prevention routine?
Well, I was on finasteride for a while, and then I just came off it because one of my neighbors scared the shit out of me because he happened to get prostate cancer, and he told me, he said, you know, being on that finasteride, you're masking your PSA levels, and you don't know. You could get something and not know about it. So
all they do is double your levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they test you.
If they know you're on the medication, they take your levels and they double them.
It just spooked me at the time. So presently, you know, for the last 5 years, 6 years, I'm not on anything. Just eating right, you know, exercising. Just trying to keep this 50-year-old body going.
I think it's definitely in your best interest to speak with Dr. B about this because you know you're only 50. 50's young. You've got the potential to lose more hair, and with the investment you're about to make, not just financially, but you know the investment of your non-renewable donor hair, and the downtime and the recovery and the emotional roller coaster waiting for the final result, it is in your best interest to speak to Dr. B about the potential of getting back on it. I know for a fact that he has a topical solution of finasteride and a topical solution of Dutasteride that they can offer you that will sidestep the oral option, which can reduce side effects. But you know, I think that oral is the best way to go as far as finasteride. Not a big fan of Dutasteride personally, but a lot of people take it with success. But you need to discuss your options because, in my opinion, the way I see things, it makes no sense to get a hair transplant without stopping your hair loss as much as possible beforehand. To me, it's like getting some of your teeth capped and then just stop brushing your teeth. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So I think that if you were not having issues with it yourself personally, you should seriously consider getting back on the medication after you speak with Dr. Baubac.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Hi, man. Well, listen, we wish you the best of luck. I definitely think you made a good choice. I think Joe's advice, again, we're both not physicians, but I think Joe's advice is very reasonable. Remember, hair loss is a progressive disease. It's a you know, it's a process, and you know, I understand why you would be fearful. I mean, it's interesting. Was this particular guy who got prostate cancer on finasteride, or he was just advising you about the fact that you're masking your PSA?
No, he was on finasteride, and I don't know, you know, his family history, but he happened to get prostate cancer.
Right.
Which he was able to cure it.
Right.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, keep in mind that prostate cancer is, I think it's the most common cancer among men, regardless. So, you know, it's, you know, I don't think it would be because of anything that he's taking that, like finasteride. I don't see any correlation.
Right. He just scared me a little bit at first. You know?
I get it. I get it, man. I get it. Listen, best of luck. Let us know how you do when you see Dr. B, and I think you're going to be in really good hands.
Can I mention you guys when I'm sitting in the chair?
Absolutely, you should.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, dude.
You got it.
All right, you take care.
All right, thanks for calling.
Night, guys.
Good luck. When's your surgery?
You.
When's your surgery?
The 19th.
All right, man. Well, best of luck.
Soon. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Say hi.
Good luck, buddy.
Say hi.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. We'll take one more call and then call it a night. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. It's Mo from Jersey. How you guys doing?
Hey, Mo. What's happening?
What's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
All right.
Good.
Pretty good.
How's the weather in Vancouver, Joe?
Beautiful today. Beautiful.
Is it really?
It is almost coming up on 7 p.m. and the current temperature is 13 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, about 50-something, mid-50s Fahrenheit. Sunny.
Okay, not bad
beautiful.
for Vancouver weather. Now,
Yeah,
are you American or are you originally Canadian?
American, man.
American. Oh, all right.
American.
No, patriot over here. I'm going to keep this call short. I actually have questions for both of you. When I was, I stay on the forums. I'm not going to name forums specifically.
It's 76 in Beverly Hills, by the way. Just in case you want to know.
Listen, I know. Listen, first of all, I don't even want to ask you what the weather's like over there because it's just going to piss my ass off. And then I'm like, there's a reason why I didn't ask you. Okay, I'm just saying. I want to raise my question more. It's going to. By the way, it's going to snow here again in Jersey, New York, in probably Monday or so.
Yeah, it's insane.
Enjoy that.
So
I am so glad I don't live on the East Coast anymore.
So, do you know why I didn't ask you what the weather's like, Spence?
Yes, I certainly did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anywho, because I know I don't want to hold you guys up, I was on a certain really big forum, and Joe, I realized that your name is not allowed to be mentioned. Now, why is that? I just had to call in and ask. Why are you like Voldemort? You guys know Harry Potter? Like, have you guys watched it? Like Voldemort, you can't speak his name.
I haven't watched Harry Potter, but I know what you're talking about with Joe. And the really big forum, it's not really that big, but go ahead.
Based on what, but yeah.
Based off of, mainstream in terms of it's a novice's first.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's
well, I'll go ahead and address this. So, several years ago, when I was transitioning into an independent position that I'm in now, there was, how can I put this? Fear based on what I was about to do, what I was doing. There was, frankly, it was really shocking the response that I was getting. Members were really supportive. Like, everyone was just like, "Wow, this is so great."
Wait a second, was it really shocking though? It wasn't shocking.
You know who these
people were.
No, look, hey, things that don't make sense to me can be shocking because it's like, what kind of, there were idiotic responses.
Right.
Idiotic, and I don't say that lightly. Just moronic, idiotic, just stupid accusations and really just weird.
Well, these people have worked out of fear for 20 years.
Yeah, they were fearful of what I was doing, and they were trying to bully and intimidate me, and I saw what was happening, and I tried to have discussions. I can even say they were saying online, well, we're going to be reaching out to Joe to discuss this issue, which I really wasn't sure what the issue was, and almost 2 weeks had gone by, and after I'd left messages for one or two of the people that run the site for them to call me, there are no phone calls. So when are they going to reach out to me? Next year? So I saw the writing on the wall.
You're being very, and I understand you're being diplomatic, but you're being very cryptic, and I don't know if people are going to understand it. Essentially, you're coming out there to be an independent. Mm-hmm. You're going to be working with doctors, and from what I gathered,
it was a threat.
It appeared that there was some sort of a threat that you were somehow going to, I don't know, like your decision was going to be more important than theirs in the eyes of consumers or whatever it is. And
there was one the incident that kicked this off was I had made an announced.
I was just like, fuck, Joe's free now. I could be on the show every week. That's my first thought.
Yeah. Well, Spencer had the right idea, but I'd made an announcement on the forums that I was going to be working with a particular doctor, and their response was, in a nutshell, well, what makes your recommendation so much more valuable than ours after we've already vetted and investigated this doctor? Mm-hmm. And I said something along the lines of, I don't know, maybe they took offense at this. It's like, well, I actually go to the clinic and I actually, have 11 years experience of working in top world-class clinics on a daily basis, whereas...
You're in the trenches.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, whereas You are probably sitting in your basement in your underwear, clicking on websites, looking at pretty pictures.
That's fucked up. But
Little bit of, well, I mean, it was
Yeah,
the
no,
truth.
that was cold. I have to tell you, that was wrong.
It was the truth, and so they took offense at that, and they were threatened by what I was doing, what I was, what it meant for me to do what I was doing, and I saw the writing on the wall. After 2 weeks of them making this public display of concern, and that they were going to be reaching out to me, and they're having some sort of discussion behind the scenes. It was all just a big dog and pony show. I made the decision to announce my exit, that I was no longer going to participate on that forum, because if they were going to get so bent out of shape over such a small thing, then it was impossible for me to do what I needed to do. And I made the decision to.
Well, you wouldn't have been able to be of any value to consumers. That's the problem, and that's what you really would have been stifled. I just remember when you contacted me and you said, "Hey, you're going to be you're essentially going to be independent," and you asked me, how do I feel about you posting on the forum? I'm like, what the fuck do I care? Just why would I care about something like that? To me, you're doing good work. The more, the merrier, man.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. The reason I asked is because Joe's probably mentioned there every day. I'm not even lying, or at least for the sake of honesty, every other day. But it's funny as hell. It really is like a Harry Potter thing. They talk about Joe and in a good light, but they say, oh, the guy we can't talk about. He highlighted this like 2 or 3 years ago, whatever odd many years ago. Yeah. He's mentioned almost every day on that. Like, I'm not an avid blogger on that forum.
I tell him that he's lucky that they deleted him, because they did the opposite to me for a long time, where they purposely, if my last name wasn't mentioned in something negative, it would be added so that it would appear that there was something negative going on. So I was like, dude, you're just lucky that your name is starred out. You don't have to, that makes your life so much easier.
Yeah, I
it's funny. They did a similar thing to Jesus of Nazareth. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joe.
So they starred him out, or they made his name, or they were made the name more prominent?
No, there was. I mean, remember I told you that time I was actually, when I was really into it, I contacted that office.
Right.
And in the midst of all this, this is before the whole meltdown.
Yeah.
The network was totally, in a way, bashing. I mean, it was really unwarranted. I'm not a huge fan of that clinic, but the way they were kind of bashing him, the way they were kind of going after him, I just felt it was unethical. I mean, it's one thing to not recommend a position, but it's one thing to kind of just go at him. And then his office had a whole video in response to that, and basically lawyers got involved. And I know that because one of the main consultants, and he's also one of the operations manager guy over there. He kind of told me about all this, because I asked him. I said, "Look, this is what I came across," and he basically told me that they had to have lawyers get involved. And basically, it's similar to the way they treat, mention Joe, because he's not allowed to be mentioned in the forum either. Like, they totally don't mention him at all. I mean, when they mention him, they say the doctor who can't be mentioned. Like, it's really funny as hell when you come across that.
Look, I chose to do things the way that I think that they should be done. We run a forum where moderators act as moderators. They're not out there interjecting. They're not, helping to control the flow of information. They are not guiding people in whatever direction. They're there to moderate the forum. If someone's out of line, they could interject and say what the terms of service are, and say why they're making these changes, or deleting something, or moving something. That's what a moderator is for. As far as derogatory comments and defamation, we don't allow guerrilla marketing. We don't allow any type of potential defamation. It doesn't matter who the doctor is. That's just the way that it is. They don't have to be in the IAHRS. If they are someone we do not recommend, and like I said, this doctor did apply to the IAHRS. And
we're talking about Nazareth?
Yes, and he was not accepted at the time because it was relatively early on. This was a long time ago. Did not have the 500 necessary cases. The person that you're talking about, his main consultant, I mean, they were very gracious about it. They didn't make a big deal out of it, like some doctors who were rejected. And then, that was it. I kind of chose to kind of step away from that for several reasons. But, honestly, what's the point of trying to destroy somebody's practice? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that wasn't the call.
And here's the thing. It's, when you're dealing with this industry online, in the online arena, it really, we were talking about this earlier, the arena,
toxic.
It really is ugly. And back when all this was happening, some of my early clients, doctors I'm working with, were getting emails. I have copies of these. They were getting emails from these guys, making I'll say veiled threats, that they should drop me, that they should no longer work with me, or else it would be bad for them. And so when you know that, and then you see how they treated this clinic, and then you see how they interject in these threads and give their own opinion, which has more weight than that of a regular poster, which is extremely, I think it's wrong. You get a better picture of how that forum operates. It's through fear, intimidation, in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. It is like the earlier caller said, it's a toxic environment, and frankly, I'm glad I'm not in it. It's just too much to deal with.
Well, you're mentioned on it every day if it helps your conscience, and it's since your videos are starting to grow even more. I mean, seriously, ever since your class, class number 1. I mean, obviously, I think that's closing in on like 500,000 or whatever, but it's really hard for them to ignore you. You're bound to be mentioned somewhere, and
I wish they would fucking ignore me, man. I mean, you go back in some of that stuff. And these guys have said some of the nasty. These are people who actually own the website. Just some nasty, all fear-based shit. I'm looking at the rankings right now, just to get an idea. Now we completely moderate the site, so that means there's less active, visible back and forth, right? So, and there's no back end. There's no PMing system. If you drop a PMing system, you lose between 30 and 40, maybe up to 50% of your traffic. I made the decision to do that because of all the, I don't know if you've ever been PM'd on one of those sites, but if you have, it's probably from a consultant or a salesperson or somebody trying to give you shit. That's just unfortunately the way PMing works. But right now, Bald True Talk has a global rank of 49,000. Google's number 1. That means this is a hair loss site. And our U.S. rank is 51,000. Let me check this other site. And the reason I'm doing this is just to prove a point that while people love drama, people also want the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their global ranking, it's very acceptable. It's reasonable. It's 121,000. But it's, we have about 3 times as much traffic. And why is that? Because people want to read. They may want to go on and, talk and gossip on all these different sites, but they want to get the truth. And frankly, Joe spends a lot of time on our forum too, so that's very beneficial. He posts his stuff on our forum. People want to see that. And, they just want to, I guess, feel like they're getting, just a sense of legitimacy. And
which they after 18 years, it still eludes them. I'm sorry, it does.
Yeah.
It does. No major media outlets have ever referenced them once.
Well,
I mean, it's.
Look, you got to get
intro.
Yeah, you got to.
I'm sorry.
You got to give credit where credit's due, though. I mean, I do think that there's a lot of good information on the site. I think that a lot of the contributors have done a really great job as far as providing information on that site. I've always said that a lot of the doctors that decide to sponsor the site, whether they want to sponsor them at a lower range or a higher range, which I think the 2-tier thing is very interesting, by the way. But you know, the way that it was done. But, you know, they do so because they want to get leads. That's just the way that it is. That's the nature of the game. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Spence, I got to ask you a question, and I have a dare, too. So the dare I'm going to save. My quick question to you is, I mean, we all know about your story.
I'm not pulling my hairline back if that's a dare right now because it's total mess.
No, that's not the dare. That's not the dare. Don't worry about it. That's not what you think. No, it's going to be. That's not the dare. But why didn't you go with surgery with everything you know? And obviously, you know, you've been in the industry. You're obviously very well educated. What made you not want to get surgery, even though you probably can?
Because of everything he knows.
Because of everything I know.
But what factors of everything you know?
Well, for me, you know, the reality is shock loss is a big concern for me.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of my visible loss is in my crown. I have hairline loss, and, you know, I mean, depending on the day and how my hair is cut, it could look fuller than others, and I could use less hairspray. But for the most part, if you were to see me in person on a good day with a fresh haircut, I look like a guy who has a relatively full head of hair.
No, your hair looks great. I mean, there looks like no visible loss at all. It's just and
I appreciate that. To me, I'd rather, because I'm so open about it, I'd rather use cosmetics, things where I'm taking very low risk. I'm risk adverse when it comes to surgery. Let's put it that way. So, why would I take a chance on losing the precious hair that I've saved to potential shock loss that could be permanent when I'm not at a point where I really need the surgery? And I'll give you another example. I'm sitting at the bar with Mark Dower. Jay Balmacet said this same thing to me. He's looking at my hair, and I'm showing him my paint job in the back, and he's like, yeah, you know what, you're doing the right thing. He goes, I probably wouldn't touch you. I probably wouldn't touch you because, you know, you want to save that donor hair just in case. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Isn't that shock loss mostly temporary, though?
It can be. And usually, I would say, you know, maybe 7 out of 10 times it's temporary. 8 out of 10 times it's temporary. But I don't want to be the 20%, you know. And even though I'm on finasteride, hair's still miniaturizing. I mean, who knows? Or what happens if I have some sort of bizarre nerve issue? Or what happens if I have, lidocaine toxicity, or all the things that I know about that you guys don't fucking think about.
So some of you guys out there, it's like you don't even touch finasteride because of someone on the internet saying that they had an issue. This guy knows more about surgery than most people, will ever dream to know about, and that's why he's not doing surgery, because of all these things that can go wrong. So it's,
Joe, would you do it all over again?
I'm sorry?
Would you do, like, everything you've been through, horrible surgeries, obviously great surgery where it looks like you've gotten, nothing done in a good way. Would you go through with it all over again, or would you kind of just, just go the Spence route and not do it with everything you know now?
I get that question from time to time. If I had the opportunity to go back in time to change everything, I wouldn't, because it is. I do enjoy what I have. However, if I could send a message to myself 20 years ago, or 26 years, Jesus Christ, 26 years ago, I would not do it. I would stop myself, because I have a good head shape for shaving. I have shaved in the past before I had my surgeries, and when I was going through Merchant Marine training, complete shaved head. And the only reason why I wouldn't have kept it back then is because in the early 90s, if you're a head shaver, you're a skinhead and a Nazi, and you don't want that. So that didn't become vogue until 10 years later in the early 2000s. So I wouldn't change it, like, if I had the opportunity to go back, but if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't do it. So it's kind of a two-sided answer.
Two-sided answer.
All right, and
before I let you go,
what's the dare?
Yeah. I have to. You don't have to do it today. but it's been on the chats that I'm a part of on this thread. I don't know if it's been on this week, but you got to show your derm match patch, bro, without any derm match one of these days.
I'll show right now.
Wait, on the no, but that's with derm match, right?
Yeah.
No. We want like raw, like we want no derm match. We want none of that. That's a dare. And we've been asking for you for like 4 weeks, bro. And you've been ignoring the request. So I'm like, you know what? I want to have the balls to call in.
I don't read the entire chat all the time, and I didn't see that, but I've been reading it tonight. You know what I'll do? Fuck it, I'll do it.
You'll do it.
I'll do
next
it.
Week.
Sure.
There you go.
I don't know about next week, but I'll do. Maybe I'll just put up a picture. Maybe I'll do a video.
All right.
That is a big ratings extravaganza. So tell everyone, spread the word. Spencer Kobren's going au naturel. He's going commando.
I'll do it.
Au natural. You know, I'll give you a 2 weeks limit. It's got to be within the next 2 shows.
Or else.
How's that? or else. Or else you're gonna lose. I mean, great marketing.
What's going to happen if I don't do it?
I mean, I don't want to say you're going to lose a listener because I'm still going to listen, so I don't want to fucking lie. But it's just, I mean, just or else. I mean, just I'll think about.
Or I don't know. Maybe I will just do maybe I'll do a special show when I'm wearing my hat, and I'll just take off my hat with Joe. Like you can have. You know what? You guys have to watch Joe's feed every day because that's just going to pop up, and you're going to see the bald spot. That's how we're going to do it.
Unannounced.
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you this. Ratings-wise, it'll be great if you just came on one day saying, you know, next week I'm going to come with the hat with nothing on, and I'm going to show it. That would be great for ratings. But, hey, what do I know? You guys know this better than I do.
Well, the best way to do it is to have a wet head. That'll really fuck you guys up.
No, but that's not all that accurate. You know, it's like, you know how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. You may be disappointed. You may be like, because I have the hair is long, if I comb it right, you could see through it, but it's not going to look as bad. But if I pull it over, take the hairspray out, pull it over, then, you know, that's a whole other story.
Dodger Stadium.
No. Listen, Spence, I mean no hairspray, no derm match, nothing, raw. Like I'm not going to say no combing because that's a little too much, but I mean nothing, 100% raw. So
what are you trying to say?
No, I'm saying that's a dare. He's got to come in one day with nothing on his head, no hairspray, no nothing.
Oh, so I can't even use fucking hairspray? First you want me to not use the derm match, and now I can't even use hairspray in the front?
Actually, all right, fine. Hairspray in the front, that's fine. Well, I'll let you go. Do you use derm match in the front at all or no?
No. Well, I mean, I have, but I don't use it for the show.
Okay, all right. So that's all right. So I'll be nice. I'll be lenient with the dare. So that's cool.
All right, motherfuckers.
You gotta
all right, motherfuckers. And I'll tell you what. And I'm going to do this, and then you guys are going to do some shit for us.
Okay, we got it.
Exactly.
You haven't been reading on the chat. We've been asking for this.
I actually haven't even seen it. Let me see.
No, I don't think it's on this one. It's been on every other chat, every day, every show. And I'm like, you know, next time I call, I'm going to go and I'm going to ask Spence to do it on there because no one has the balls to call.
Guys asking the moon. That's funny. Asking for the moon.
By the way, if you want to, flipping back to our earlier discussion, everything that happened back 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, is still on the website. Google, or not Google, but use the search function. Use my old handle, Joetronic, or Joe. Use Joe Tillman, and look back around July, August of 2015. You'll see the whole thing.
Look, here's the thing. You know what I try to do in life is I try to avoid dealing with ugliness, and there's so many ugly people in this industry. When I first got involved, when I first started the IAHRS, the ugliness really started to rear its head. And sadly, that particular site and the owner of that site made a decision. And the decision was to kind of, work out of fear of competition. I always believed that everyone could work together. That's why when Joe was not going to be working with House and Wong, I was like, now you could have some time. You can be free. I'd like to have you on the show. We should do some more stuff together.
Yeah, I'd already been calling in for almost 10 years.
He didn't expect that. I mean, he didn't know what to expect. Maybe he thought that I would be a little, have my hackles up as well. To me, it's like, that's a stupid move. Why not have more fun? Why not draw more eyeballs? Why not provide the consumer with a different perspective? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and it worked out.
No, I know I said I wasn't going to ask any more questions, but that actually reminded me of something. And this is to you both. It's a quick question. Joe, Spence, you were talking about shock loss. Are there specific, and obviously it's rare, well, not rare, but it's 70-80% of people have it temporarily. But for the people that's permanent, or even temporary, I would add, are there specific factors that one can use to avoid? Obviously, finasteride is one, but are there specific factors that one can use or do that prevent shock loss, or something that you know that actually causes it that we can avoid?
I'll take this one.
Go ahead, I'll let you take it.
There is zero evidence of anything, including finasteride, preventing shock loss. I remember when that first became some sort of street fact. I don't know why. I think people started saying that maybe 12 or so years ago. Finasteride doesn't prevent shock loss from surgery. You're talking about from surgery, right?
Yeah, from surgery.
Yeah. Two things cause shock loss. The surgeon fucking up and transecting your hairs, that's permanent shock loss. And then there's temporary shock loss, which is just trauma to the scalp, interruption of the blood flow throughout the scalp, because you got this network of vessels and capillaries that are running throughout the top of your scalp. Your head is, I believe, it's the most vascular part of your body. And so there's this extensive network of blood pathways. And when you're making thousands of incisions, not to mention the major interruption from taking out a strip or from taking out thousands of FUE extractions, that's a big deal. That's traumatic for the scalp on a not quite superficial level, a little bit deeper than that, but you're interrupting the natural way of things, and the hair is going to react. And finasteride is not going to prevent that from happening. I don't know why people start thinking that, but that's I've never seen anything that supports that idea.
And I also think there's a misconception. A lot of doctors will write about this on their websites and elsewhere that
that's exactly what it is, Spence. I mean, Joe, I don't mean to cut you guys off, but it's not necessarily it's a misconception. It may just be misinformation, because on a lot of websites, on clinic websites, on doctor websites, and it's not a new website that a big known clinic that I know of, but they all say finasteride is the way to go.
Well, what I was going to say, I don't mean to cut you off, as far as what the misconception is that the only reason that people are dealing with shock loss and the only hairs that are being shocked out are hairs that are already in the telogen phase. That is untrue.
Right.
That is not a truism, and that is something that will be said on just about every doctor's website. Also, there is this 20% mantra that's being said, even on the best doctors' websites. I would say it's a lot greater than 20%. I would say you have more than a 50-50 chance of dealing with some degree of shock loss if you have enough hair.
And it doesn't mean that it's going to be
permanent.
I was going to say, it doesn't mean it's going to be, blatantly obvious.
No, it could just be. It can be minor. It can be minor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's almost. Well, Joe, you've seen so many surgeries, but I would say that it's almost unavoidable, and it's so common, and it's something that I don't know why so many doctors are just afraid that. I understand they think they're not going to make the sale, but that's why I think. Kind of like going in, shaving down, doing it correctly, dealing with that ugly duckling stage, avoiding the emotional roller coaster of shock loss, and just waiting for all of it to grow out together is, while it's a difficult decision to make, I think it's empowering for a lot of people, and it causes them a lot less stress in the end. Because most people will see a shed. They're going to see that shed. I don't care what any doctor tells you. And I don't know if you agree with that, Joe.
Well, it depends on. Okay, so let's talk about the immediate post up to like the first 4 to 5 months. Majority, or if not all, the grafts will shed. You know, that's a given. And then the way I look at it is it depends on the strength of the hair. If you have very healthy terminal hair that is being thickened with the transplant, that can cause some temporary shock loss, just because of what I was saying earlier with the interruption of blood flow, just the trauma of the scalp. If you have miniaturized hairs, and this is the one caveat to that issue that I was having a problem with, where Propecia prevents shock loss. I still don't believe it prevents shock loss, but if there are hairs that are being miniaturized prior to the procedure, but finasteride is already being taken, those miniaturized hairs that may not be, they're not peach fuzz, but they're a little bit finer, a little bit shorter than the rest of the terminal hair, those have a chance of coming back after the procedure. So they'll still be shocked out.
Right.
But not permanently. And that's where we transition into permanent shock loss. Even if there's no transection, the hairs that are being more affected by DHT, that have a stronger degree of miniaturization, those can be completely shocked out permanently without even touching them. So there are many different layers to this, but I think the bottom line is, in my opinion, finasteride does not prevent shock loss across the board.
And that's why I always, my whole mantra is, if you're below Norwood 3, I'm just not a fan of anyone who's less than Norwood 3 having a hair transplant. That's just the way that it is. I also prefer guys who are around the age, a little more mature, or at least around 35, who've, may have dealt with hair loss for a while. They've grown into it. They really have, made the decision based on life experience to follow through with surgery. They understand the entire scope and possible pitfalls of surgery. They're mature enough to make this decision that is life-altering.
Not to mention that there's less time, there's more time to forget what it was like having the juvenile hairline before they started losing hair.
Right. But none of you motherfuckers are going to listen to me anyway. I'm just putting this out there.
Exactly.
You 22-year-olds are still going to get the hair transplant.
The most difficult patients to please are the younger ones that had their original hairline just 2 years prior, before they're in the office.
Yeah. That's
they're the most difficult to please on average, and they're the most commonly turned down. So, yeah, all kinds of problems come with that. But I have a lower threshold than Spencer. I think 30 is a cutoff. There are obviously exceptions to everything, but once you start getting into the 25 and younger range, I have a problem with that. There's always exceptions, but it's.
I will tell you this: there would be a lot
far and few in between when you start getting down below 25.
There would be a lot less complaints and a lot more happier patients out there if people waited till they were 45.
Well,
yeah. No, I mean that's a given.
Yeah,
that's a given.
Yeah. All right, man. So.
All right, guys. Pleasure, Spence. I'm holding you to your word.
Wait.
Shows.
I'll do one of two things. I'll drop my pants, or I'll do the Dermatch thing.
The elbow rectal exam,
if you drop your pants, we're gonna have to have that girl call back with the phone, the sex hotline girl, about like 2-3 weeks back.
That'd be awesome.
Okay,
we're gonna have her call back.
I miss her already. All right, man.
No. All right, guys, take it easy.
All right, you take care.
Great show.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, guys, great show. Thank you guys so much. I actually have a phone call that I have to make to India, of all places.
It is currently
7-something.
No, it is 8 o'clock in the morning there.
8 o'clock. It's 7:47 for.
Well, it depends on which part of India, but they're like 12 and a half hours.
Yeah, I always fuck that up.
Yeah, it's easy.
So I have to call them at 9:30. What time is that for me?
I think it's 9 here. For us, Pacific time. So 9 p.m. for us is 9:30 a.m. for them.
Okay.
But you can Google that shit.
Yeah, but it's so funny because it says it's 7:26 p.m. here, but 7:58 a.m. there.
Yeah, so
that's
12
that's 12 hours and 30
minutes.
30 minutes.
There's
That's
a
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
You're
your
right.
clock's off.
Jesus. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Great show as always. Joe Tillman, the original hair transplant mentor. His website is hairtransplantmentor.com. Check him out. Great site, great information. Helps a lot of motherfuckers out there who are dealing with hair loss. Not that you're all motherfuckers. It's just it's an endearing term of endearment for my listeners. Thebaldtruth.com, archive broadcast of this show. Guys, I do promise we will get the podcast back up and running. Just been busy doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of interviews, kind of rearranging things as far as how we're going to get content out to you guys. And I think we're going to have a very exciting and really prolific year as far as providing you guys with a lot of great content. IAHRS.org for the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. Of course, check them out. Check out the organization if you're considering surgery. And the American Hair Loss Association, which is AmericanHairLoss.org. Until next time. Oh, the message forum. Check out the message forum, baldtruthtalk.com. Look, not to pat myself on the back. I don't know how much it has to do with me. So I tell you guys not to go to the fucking forum, but you still do. But it's the most trafficked message forum in the field with no back end. We have no PMing system. It's completely moderated. That shit is locked down. And it's important that it is. And I think the guys that actually listen to the broadcast and understand and are open to the reasons as to why it has to be locked down, they understand the benefit of that. And I think this last call, what were you going to say, Joe?
No, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I think that this last call illustrated part of that benefit.
Well said.
Yeah.
I was going to say also another big thank you to hairlossexperiences.com, UK
That's right.
primary base forum for allowing us to stream through their online property. And do not forget to subscribe to Hair Transplant Podcast on YouTube, where you can see awesome clips of this show and more. We are growing the channel. Do not forget to subscribe. Link is in the chat room, and search for Hair Transplant Podcast on YouTube. You'll find us.
And that is where we're going to be putting all of the undercover doc and undercover tech clips, which are invaluable. And I will say, yeah, I mean, check out Hair Loss Experiences. I love the idea of actually being able to work with people in the industry.
That's a big thing. Exactly.
I mean, like, Jesus Christ, how difficult is it to be nice to each other?
Apparently, it's pretty damn difficult.
Well, check out Hair Loss Experiences. It's a great forum, you guys, in the UK. The guy who runs it, I don't know if he wants me to give out his name, but really caring, cares about patients, hair transplant patient himself, a repair patient. And, you know, I think they offer a great service to those who are in need. Go ahead.
His handle on the forum is Big Mac. We'll just say that much.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And, again, one of the few people who actually like, I get this. Let's try to all be nice to each other.
It's a strange concept.
It's a strange concept. All right, guys, listen, until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always like, you know, down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And you know, the funny thing is that I've learned to overcome it. And I've had a much, I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh, no, it's cool. Dude, let me tell you, it took a long time.
I wanna scream.